At the bottom of the lake, we find Eva 2 in a fetal position. Yet again another reference for returning to a mother's womb, and another connection to the original TV ending. At this point of the story, Asuka underwent a series of losses. First against Bardiel, then Zeruel, to finally be defeated for a third time in a row by Arael. In the aftermath, and while suffering some physical changes, Asuka finds herself in a depression. She never completely opens up to anyone, she just closes herself in a bubble. One moment she was undergoing an intense emotional distress to the point that she ended up on a hospital bed. On the next one, after regaining consciousness, she is again wearing a plug suit within Unit 2, the same one that rejected her before. Asuka realizes that she is still alive. Then the military start an attack on Unit 2, launching all kinds of explosives to it. Asuka doesn't fully understand what is going on. All that she knows is that it hurts. A lot. Then, an epiphany. She doesn't want to die. She is not ready. She is not willing to die because of a depression no more. She is terrified. This will lead her, for the first time in her story, to open up her heart. Being honest to herself, she feels lonely and scared. Rei told Asuka in episode 22 something truly revealing for her. Evangelion units have souls, and it won't move unless she opens up her heart to it. Because Asuka was so enclosed in her bubble, she was not able to hear the soul within Unit 2. She was unable to open up to it. But now, because she is completely vulnerable, she opens up and starts to feel, hear the soul within. That voice becomes louder and louder. The soul is Kyoko's, her mother. The same mother that went insane, asked her to die with her, and then replace her for a doll. Now plays a new role, the protective mother, that won't allow her daughter to die. As Asuka's heart opens up more and more, she starts to feel and hear her mother closer and closer. We then see Asuka as a child, that tiny one that lost herself because of the absence of her mother, and with a big smile hugging her doll, she can finally see her, who appears as a being of light. Asuka is ready to tear that wall around her heart and forgive her mother, reaching out to her and embrace her. And because of that, the synchronization with the unit starts again. Now, all of this is beautiful and very artistic, but we should not forget that there is a war going on, and what the Evangelion units actually are, killing machines. And according to the lore, a high synchronization rate means the pilot is closer to its core, and the outcome will result in the same to what happened to Shinji while fighting Zeruel. So keep that in mind. Asuka makes her return to a battlefield as a mistress of war, lifting a warship above her head. Asuka was introduced into the story aboard of a warship, and she will begin her last stand with one as well. The whole sequence is epic. Asuka the warrior is back. However, this time Asuka is not fighting angels. This time Asuka is killing human beings, and that is why is hidden in this sequence. The heroine of the story has become a murderer. She doesn't see it that way, because she is lost in her emotions for her mother. And we, as an audience, after all of that distress we have been put on since the beginning of the film, overlooks this. Because of that, Asuka doesn't see the consequences of her actions. Actions that will have a high price to pay. Asuka uses the AT field as a weapon, something that only angels have done in this story. It can be argued that Unit 1 also used it, most noticeable against Sahakiel, but it was on defense, not offense. And then again when it went berserk, which means that wasn't Shinji using it either, but his mother. In Asuka's case, it is in fact Asuka who is actively using it to kill and destroy. That is how she understands the AT field, her mother protecting her. When Asuka rises from the fire of destruction, we are let know that a monster has awakened, a child defending her mother and herself at all costs. At this point we can ask ourselves, is there any difference between an Evangelion unit and an angel? It is all very similar to the first episode, when Sakiel invaded the city and this only defended itself from human beings. At this point, Unit 2 seems indestructible. But it isn't. Does the military destroy the power core, or the umbilical cord? now has become a race against the clock, because Unit 2 doesn't have an internal S2 engine. Now we can understand why Seal is willing to sacrifice Unit 2 if cannot control it. Asuka is just way too dangerous. If by any means Unit 1 will join the fight, there will be no other choice than to retreat. No matter the amount of MPE Seal will deploy, Unit 2 has to go, and has to go now. Thus, these 9 wide on-pilot wing Evangelion units are deployed. There is a lot of speculations and essays that have been written over the years regarding on the hidden symbolism behind their design. I never ever found one that completely convinced me. So I will leave it up to you as a homework to find out. What I will say is that the community have decided to call them Harpies in both English and Spanish. I don't like that term either, so I will call them for what they are, Mass Production Evangelions, or MPEs, as I have mentioned before. Each one of them are controlled by a Kaoru model dummy plug, but the name doesn't imply that it's actually Kaoru. But it has, let's say, the essence of Kaoru that will trick the MPE into believing that there is a pilot that is actually synchronizing. They are, after all, still Evangelion units. Gendo was never able to recreate this with the Rei model, as for Unit 1 rejected it in episode 19. It only got activated with Shinji in command, in episode 18. The MPEs also have autonomous engines S2, which were replicated from Sanshell's core, the angel that was defeated by Shinji on episode 3. Thus, they have an unlimited source of power. And as angels, the only way to actually defeat them is attacking its core. Asuka is not informed of this. She is about to engage in a battle that she simply can't win, with information she has. This upcoming battle is the most epic one on the entire story. A Mecha Fan Fest, one Evangelion unit against 9. Anno decided to give Asuka, not Shinji, this privilege. Shinji, in contrast, is still being dragged by Misato deep into the facilities. If we take a close look to Asuka's facial expressions, we can easily deduct how exhausted she is. It's been a wild ride for her, handling losses after losses, natural physical changes, mood changes, traumas, depressions, sedation, and still fighting, pushing forward. If this is not the characterization of a hero, I frankly don't know what it is. Her biggest challenge is still ahead. She needs to defeat all of these enemies with the time she has left. It's a race against the clock. Nevertheless, Asuka's exhaustion will not let her think straight. She believes she's fighting regular Evangelion units. With actual pilots, her strategy is cause pain as much as she can. Shinji nor Rei would have done anything of what Asuka is doing right now. She has gone completely unhinged. She is bloodthirsty. Misato has died, but not before putting Shinji into the elevator. He is solving his way to EVA 1, while Asuka continues her stand. Conveniently, the MPEs attack one at a time, for now, because time is on their favor, and working against Asuka. Shinji finally gets to the cage to find Unit 1 covering backlight. This was because of Misato's order when the battle started, and everything seemed lost. He cannot find a way to enter EVA 1. Does he have the will though? Well, yes, and in my opinion, a strong yes. But there are some arguments that have been made over the years in which, in this case, Shinji is simply quitting on Asuka, based mostly on other storylines, like in Sadamoto's manga for instance. In there, he did more. Well, in there are also other horrible transgressions to the storyline that I'm not going to mention. But what I will say is this, and I don't know how many times I have said this before in previous videos, but here I go again. Anno's version is the definite version, and given how events develop so far into the story, there is no doubt in my mind that if Shinji would have found a way to jump directly into the unit and fight along Asuka, he would have done it. Why I am so sure? Well, because as soon as he can jump into the EVA, he does it. He doesn't stay still waiting under some stairs to get killed. This time, he is ready to take action. In the meantime, Ritsuko, Another character that is depending on her mother's will is waiting for Gendo Ikari, and reveals to him that she has changed the Magi's configuration. This would definitely put a stop to Gendo's plan. This shot is reminiscent of episode 21, when Ritsuko meets Rei for the first time. This should not have been easy to her and all of she went through, as for all the way to the end, Gendo still prefers Rei over her. And yet again, following her mother's step, Ritsuko is willing to commit suicide. But Casper, the woman's side of the Magi, denies the self-destruction command that Ritsuko activates. Her own mother, the woman, has chosen her lover over her. At least that is her conclusion. It is beautiful artistic again. But is it true though? The Magi is a group of computers that make a supercomputer, and this one comes to conclusions after carefully calculates all the possible outcomes. The Magi is not an artificial intelligence. Never across the story we have seen the Magi making decisions by itself. These decisions were made by humans, not computers. It simply doesn't make any sense. However, we don't get a definite answer for that other than the artistic symbolic one. Casper just rejects Ritsuko for Gendo. Then Gendo takes a gun out and points it to Ritsuko. But part of the sentence he says is muted. We cannot hear it, to which Ritsuko replies, "Liar," before shooting her. What did Gendo say though? "I always love you?" We know that is not true. He only loves Yui, that has been very well established already. Perhaps it's the second option, one that has been recurrent in the show, and that is, "I need you," which makes way more sense, because he really needed her. Does Gendo develop some kind of feelings towards Ritsuko? We know they were secret lovers, but we don't get more details on that. So it's hard to say. I will leave it up to you to decide. Gendo shoots her and her body flies to the LCL pool, not before seeing Lilith and Rei. A different Rei than the one standing behind Gendo. Also notice how the first time we are introduced to Ritsuko in the story all the way back to episode 1 was rising from a pool of LCL. Now, for the last time we see her in the story, she is back into it. And thus, all the three friends have died by a gunshot. Asuka continues her fight, trying to prove to her mother that she's in fact a good daughter, that she's going to prevail and her will is to live. Shinji, on the other hand, is sitting on the cage, listening to Asuka's struggles. He recognizes that she says Mama or Casa while looking at Eva 1. There is no doubt at this point that Shinji perfectly knows where his mother is at. Remember when I said that the MPs were attacking one by one across the fight? Notice how when Asuka finally gets to one of them core, where the S2 engine is at, another one reacts, and threw at her one of them heavy spears. It reveals itself to be one of Longinus' replicas, which are designed to traverse anything on their path, no matter the amount of AT field that you put to stop them. The spear goes and impales the Eva's head, and even when the battery ran out of life, and in theory she should have been disconnected completely from the Eva, she is so close to the core due to her high synchronization rate that she can still feel and react to the pain that Unit 2 receives. Asuka is bleeding from her injuries non-stop, crying her lungs out while desperately trying to make Unit 2 react, similar to when she couldn't make the Eva react in episode 23. What follows is a clear representation of a rape scene, where the victim is stripped of all of the power over his own body and stripped naked, violating the sanctity of it. It's not a clean kill, the purpose is to humiliate first, and as vultures leaving the victim to experience all of this terror. Asuka, who is in terrible pain, cannot scream anymore. She only repeats to herself that she's going to kill them. Her sync levels are so high that she doesn't need the handles to maneuver the Eva anymore. This won't move his arms, replicating the movements of her arms. One of the MPs throw one of them spears, splitting Eva's two and Asuka's arm in two before impaling her to death. Shinji, in resignation, hears how Maya screams through the intercom about Asuka's fate, only for his mother to react. Curious on how she only does it when Asuka is gone. Jealousy, perhaps? It is pretty clear that Yui was very well aware of everything that was going on, and still did nothing. She is so in control of Eva 1 that she can make the thing fly, as we are going to see very soon. And once again, Shinji will go into an Eva for the last time, the same way he did it for the first time, because it was moved by Yui. The unit explodes to his emergence into the outside world, very reminiscent of how Adam did it on the second impact. Wings display included. This is definitely the end for the JSDF troops, as they were astonished how the devil has awoken. This first part of the story ends with Shinji realizing the fate of his beloved friend, who was massacred in a depictable and inhuman way to her death, making thus her last stand. This will result in Shinji's definite breakdown. We will retake it from here on my next installment, as we take a closer look to the end of Evangelion. I publish Evangelion and other anime content each week. If you don't want to miss the next episode, be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell notification button. If you have already but you still feel that you're missing on the notifications, consider to follow me on Twitter at Mixan, or join my Discord for free, where I provide daily updates on the channel, Evangelion news, and current and classic anime insight and discussions. You will find the link on the description section down below. Guys, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I wish you all a wonderful day.